guys, welcome to my channel and Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's who am I? Who do you think you are? Huh? Okay. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's me, Bridget, and I am back with another video. So, today is finally the end, part 4 of chapter 8 of Women Who Run with Wolves. Woo woo! Okay, I'm really excited to go ahead and get through with this video. This has been a long process, and I can't wait for chapter 9, but I'm ready to get through this. So in parts 1 through 3, we talked about the story of the girl with the red shoes. We talked about the traps that she fell into, being seduced by the luxury of life and running away from her own creative, passionate inner life. In this part, we will finally talk about the final trap that the girl falls into, which is dancing out of control, addiction, and obsession. And we will talk about the reinstallment of the instinct and the process that one must go through in order to cut off the red shoes and come back to one's inner, passionate, wild life. So before we get into the video, make sure that you like this video because I really appreciate that, and it lets me know that you guys are enjoying these chapters videos. Really, can't say it enough. I really appreciate when you guys like these videos specifically. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and have your notification bells turned on. Although we are done with the series of chapter 8, and this is part 4, we still have many more chapters to go and probably many more series because the chapters are quite long. So you guys want to have your notification bells turned on so you'll be notified when I come out with the new videos and the new chapters. All right, so let's just get on into part 4. Trap number 8. Dancing out of control, obsession, and addiction. So the old woman of the story was meant to be the guardian of the child and the mentor to bring her into her wild life. But she is blinded both physically and spiritually by her remiss ideas about values. Due to the blindness, she has now left the child vulnerable in 2 ways. First, obviously, was in the buying of the shoes from the conspiring shoemaker. And second, by being unaware of the soldier who switched the shoes alive by tapping the dust off of the little girl's feet. In the book, Estes says, "The child has tried it all. Adapting to the old woman, not adapting, sneaking, being good, losing control and dancing off, regaining herself and trying to be good again. Here, her acute starvation of soul and meaning forces her to once more grasp for the red shoes, strap them on, and begin her last dance, a dance into the void of unconsciousness. She has normalized a dry, cruel life, thereby setting up more yearning in her shadow for the shoes of madness. The man in the red beard has brought something to life, but it is not the child. It is the torturous shoes. The girl begins to whirl and twirl her life away in a manner that, as with addiction, does not bring bounty, hope, or happiness, but trauma, fear, and exhaustion. There is no rest for her. It is not the girl's yearning for the shoes or to dance that is the issue. The issue is the lack of instinct. The issue is the lack of knowing not to trick her older guardian into buying the shoes in the first place. The issue is the lack of knowing when to dust off her own shoes rather than letting the rather creepy stranger do it for her. The overall issue is the lack of instinct, but the one instinct that could have saved the day, the one instinct that the girl needed to have, was simply the instinct to know when to stop, when to just not keep going because you don't know what you're doing. That is the one most important instinct that the girl lacked, and here's what Estes has to say about it. She needed only one wise inner construct that she could hold on to. One shred of instinct that would last until she could begin the time-consuming work of rebuilding inner sense and instinct. There's a wild voice that lives inside of all of us, one that whispers, "Stay here long enough. Stay here long enough to revive your hope, to drop your terminal cool, to give up defensive half-truths, to creep, carve, bash your way through. Stay here long enough to see what is right for you. Stay here long enough to become strong, to try the try that will make it. Stay here long enough to make the finish line. It matters not how long it takes or in what style. As the old woman was getting sick, as the girl realized that the shoes were increasingly difficult to take off, there were so many times in the story when all she needed was to pause and think, maybe I should stay. Maybe it's wrong what the older guardian is teaching me, but maybe there's something that's right. Maybe there's a balance that I'm lacking here. Maybe I shouldn't run straight away and just take my time until I figure out what's actually the balance here. It's okay to take a moment when you don't know what to do. I saw a quote earlier today that said, peace is the most important thing. Peace is what you need. It is okay to tell someone that you don't want to do something simply for the mere fact that you don't feel peaceful about it. And you can use the excuse, I just don't feel at peace with this, and when I do, maybe I will do it, but until then, I'm not making any moves. The little girl obviously didn't feel that peace, but she also didn't have the instinct to wait or look for it. As the addiction to excesses increase, the weak constructs of a blind value system within the mind and the psyche also dies off. This is represented in the story by the older woman, the guardian, actually passing away. By the older woman taking ill, it actually leaves absolutely no safety or boundaries for the girl to have in front of her to stop her from going to just run to the red shoes. The only reason she didn't wear the red shoes before was out of upsetting the collective, out of upsetting the older woman. Well, without their influence, what's the problem with the red shoes, you know? That's why it's so important to have a true value system, a value system built on integrity and instinct and things like that, so that regardless of what anyone else's opinions, you still know the right decision. Within the story, because the value system that the old woman taught the little girl was so weak and lacked any substance, it was easy for the girl to barrel straight through them. In the book, Esty says, "It is not the joy of life that kills the spirit of the child in the red shoes. It is the lack of it." When a woman is unconscious about her starvation, about the consequences of using death-dealing vehicles and substances, she is dancing. She is dancing. Whether these are such things as chronic negative thinking, poor relationships, abusive situations, drugs, or alcohol, they are like the red shoes, hard to pry a person away from once they've taken hold. Within the wild psyche are a woman's fiercest instincts for survival. But unless she practices her inner and outer freedoms regularly, submission, passivity, and time spent in captivity dull her innate gifts of vision, perception, confidence, and so forth, the ones she needs for standing on her own. The instinctual nature ideally is balanced. It helps us steer around and navigate through danger. Without it, or if it is weak, we are lost. Esty says, "Sometimes it is difficult for us to realize when we are losing our instincts, for it is often an insidious process that does not occur all in one day, but rather over a long period of time. 2. The loss or the deadening of instinct is often entirely supported by the surrounding culture, and sometimes even by the women who endure the loss of instinct as a way to achieve belonging within a culture that keeps no nourishing habitat for the natural woman. Addiction begins when a woman loses her handmade and meaningful life and becomes fixated upon retrieving anything that resembles it in any way she can. Addiction and ferality are related. Most women have been captured for at least a brief time, and some for interminably long periods. Some were free only in utero. All lose varying amounts of instinct for the duration. For some, the instinct which senses who is a good person and who is not is injured, and the woman is often led astray. For others, ability to reach to injustice is slowed way down, and they often become reluctant martyrs poised to retaliate. For still others, the instinct to flee or to fight is weakened, and they are victimized. The list goes on. Conversely, a woman in her right wildish mind rejects convention when it is neither nurturing nor sensible. Throughout the chapter, Estes has actually shared the story of Janis Joplin, who is a singer and a real woman in real life who represents this kind of archetype of having lost the wild soul very early on in life and struggling with addictions and the red shoes for quite a long period of her life until it kind of takes control and runs away from her. She's shared many things about her throughout the chapter, which I definitely encourage you guys to read, as I always encourage you guys to read the chapters yourselves. But she shares this one point that I thought was really great and I wanted to share with you guys. Joplin began to carry out the wildish wishes of others as well. She began to carry a kind of archetypal presence that others were afraid to carry for themselves. They cheered on her rebelliousness as though she could free them by becoming wild for them. Janis made one more try at conformity before she began a long slide into possession. She joined the ranks of other powerful but hurt women who found themselves acting as flying shamans to the masses. They too became exhausted and fell from the sky. Frances Farmer, Billie Holiday, Anne Sexton, Sylvia Plath, Sarah Teasdale, Judy Garland, Bessie Smith, Edith Piaf, and Frida Kahlo. Sadly, the lives of some of our favorite role models of wild and artistic women ended prematurely and tragically. A feral woman is not strong enough to carry a longed-for archetype for everyone else without breaking. A feral woman is supposed to be immersed in a healing process. We do not ask a recovering person to carry the piano upstairs. A woman who is returning has to have time to strengthen. Finally, the section in the book where the girl gets to the executioner's house. This section is called Trying to Take the Shoes Off Too Late. Estes says in the book, "So what happens to women when their vibrant psychic colors are mushed together? What happens when you mix scarlet, sapphire, and topaz all together? Artists know. When you stir vibrant colors together, you get a color called mud. Not mud that is fertile, but mud that is sterile, colorless, strangely dead, that does not emit light. When painters make mud on the canvas, they must begin all over again." The beginning all over again is the hard part. With addiction, for whatever reason that no one knows, it's extremely hard to stop, no matter how much you know it's damaging you. Estes describes this perfectly. "It hurts to cut oneself away from an addiction to self-destruction. Nobody knows why. You'd think a captured person would be relieved to have turned this corner. You'd think they would feel saved in the nick of time. You'd think they would rejoice. But no. Instead, they go into a funk. They hear teeth gnashing and discover they're the ones making the noise. They feel they are bleeding somehow, even though there is no blood. Yet, it is this pain, this severing, this not having a foot to stand on, so to speak, this no home to go back to, that is exactly what is needed to start over, to start fresh, to go back to the handmade life, the one careful and mindfully crafted by us every day. Yes, there is a pain in being severed from the red shoes, but being cut away from the addiction all at once is our only hope. It is a severing that is filled with absolute blessing. The feet will grow back. We will find our way. We will recover. We will run and jump and skip again someday. By then, our handmade life will be ready. We'll slip into it and marvel that we could be so lucky to have another chance. There is gold on the other end of the rainbow, and you can only have a rainbow if you've had a little bit of rain." We've all been there. And no matter how difficult it is and how much I would never wish this on anyone, we all know that when we come out on the other side, we are a little bit stronger. A lot stronger. Returning to a life made by hand, healing injured instincts. And finally, here we will discuss the tools to healing the instinct. Although there's much to do, the healing process is a process, and it's different for everyone. However, although there is no formula, there are some tips and some checkpoints that you can look out for along the way. It may take an indiscriminate amount of time to fully heal. Any amount of time. It could take a year, it could take a month, it could take 2 years, it could take 3. It could take a long time to actually heal your instincts fully. But just think, in the process of that healing, how long you could have spent in mindless trauma. To take your life back into your own hands requires patience, observance, and discipline. At times, your feral heart will grow weak and probably want to go back. But it is so important to stay strong, as in order to find a new path, the only way is to look back and observe and discover the mistakes that you made along the path that you already came. With feet cut off, the ending to an addiction, and time, the healing will come. However, this healing is an individual process and it is a decision. There's no amount of talking, there's no amount of wishing, there's no books, there's no movies, there's no talks, there's no one who can tell you to do this, there's no one who can do it for you. It is simply an internal decision that must grow, be planted, take root, and then grow within your soul in order to actually take fruition. No one is going to push you through the door of healing. You must go through it alone. Whether you walk, whether you run, or whether you crawl, you must make it through that door alone. But the good news is that once through that door is when the beginning of life begins. Through that door is your own handmade life, the life that you are meant to live, the life that will satiate your wild soul, the life that will give you meaning to living. Through the door, it's all you, and all the future is laying before you. Estes says, the psychological soul plane for coming back into one's own is as follows. Take extra special caution and care to lose yourself into the wild gradually, setting up ethical and protective structures by which you gain tools to measure when something is too much. You are usually already very sensitive to when something is too little. So realistically, this means just taking your time, setting up boundaries, even if they seem ridiculous, even if they seem over the top, just setting up boundaries so that you can learn what is too much and too little for yourself. Although too little is probably something you already know how to recognize. Through this chapter, we have learned about all of the traps one may fall into within the forest. This is the map of the forest. This is the map the wild woman must fully memorize before she can survive in the wild on her own. In the book, Estes says, so the return to the wild and free psyche must be made with boldness, but also with consideration. In psychoanalysis, we are fond of saying that to be trained as a healer/helper, it is as important to learn what not to do as it is to learn what to do. To return to the wild from captivity carries the same caveats. Let us take a closer look. The pitfalls, traps, and poison baits laid out for the wildish woman are specific to her culture. Here, I have listed those that are common to most cultures. Women from different ethnic and religious backgrounds will have additional specific insights. In a symbolic sense, we are composing a map of the woods in which we live. We are delineating where the predators live and describing their modi operandi. It is said that a single wolf knows every creature in her territory for miles around. It is this knowledge that gives her the edge in living as freely as possible. Regaining lost instinct and healing injured instinct is truly within one's reach, for it returns when a woman pays close attention through listening, looking, and sensing the world around herself, and then by acting as she sees others act, efficiently, effectively, and soulfully. The opportunity to observe others who have instincts well intact is central to retrieval. Eventually, the listening, looking, and acting in an integral manner becomes a pattern with a rhyme to it. Eventually, the listening, looking, and acting in an integral manner becomes a pattern with a rhyme to it, one you practice until it is relearned and becomes automatic again. It simply takes time. It takes putting yourself out there, meeting other women who are working on the same thing, preferably women who have worked on it and are currently within their instincts and living fine and dandy. Who uses that word? I don't know. It just takes time. It takes observing, it takes putting up ridiculous boundaries and realizing how ridiculous they are and then maybe changing them a little bit. It takes experimentation, but it takes a carefulness as well. Reading these type of books, working on yourself, taking time to get to know your own spirit, taking time to get involved with your spirituality, all of those things are helpful. All of those things teach you how to live better in your own wild and handmade inner life. The key is learning it for yourself, not allowing anyone else to just give it to you, not allowing anyone to take it from you, but being active within it yourself. I do caution you, do not expect healing to be the end of assault. Just because the instincts are intact does not mean that there's no more predators within the wild. The key is that now we know how to avoid capture and remain free. And even within maybe physical traps, we can remain free within so that we will always eventually regain full and total spiritual, physical, emotional, financial freedom. Esty says, if our own wild natures have been wounded by something or someone, we refuse to lie down and die. We refuse to normalize this wound. We call up our instincts and do what we have to do. The wildish woman is, by nature, intense and talented. But because of being cut away from her instincts, she is also naive, accustomed to violence, adaptive to expatriation and exmatriation. Lovers, drugs, drink, money, fame, and power cannot much help the damage done, but a gradual re-entry to the instinctual life can. For this, a woman needs a mother, a good enough, wildish mother. And guess who is waiting to be that mother? The wild woman. The wild woman wonders what has been taking you so long to be with her, really be with her. Not just sometimes or when it's convenient, but consistently. If you are striving to do something you value, it is so important to surround yourself with people who unequivocally support your work. It is both a trap and a poison to have so-called friends who have the same injuries but no real desire to heal them. These kinds of friends encourage you to act outrageously, outside of your natural cycles, out of sync with your soul needs. A feral woman cannot afford to be naive. As she returns to her innate life, she must consider excesses with a skeptical eye and be aware of their cost to soul, psyche, and instinct. Like the wolf pups, we memorize the traps, how they are made, and how they are lain. That is the way we remain free. It is just as fatuous to think that once we solve an issue, it remains solved. That once we learn, we remain conscious ever after. No. Life is a great body that grows and diminishes in different areas and at different rates. When we are like the body, doing the work of the new growth, wading through the la mierda shit, just breathing or resting, we are very alive. We are within the cycles of the wild woman. If we could realize that the work is to keep doing the work, we would be much more fierce and much more peaceful. To hold to joy, we may sometimes have to fight for it. We may have to strengthen ourselves and go full bore, doing battle in whichever ways we deem most shrewd. To prepare for siege, we may have to go without many comforts for the duration. We can go without most things for a long period of time. Anything almost, but not our joy, not those handmade red shoes. The real miracle of individuation and reclamation of the wild woman is that we all begin the process before we are ready, before we are strong enough, before we know enough. We begin a dialogue with thoughts and feelings that both tickle and thunder within us. We respond before we know how to speak the language, before we know all the answers, and before we know exactly to whom we are speaking. But like the wolf mother teaches her pups to hunt and take care, this is the way the wild woman wells up through us. We begin to speak her voice, taking on her vision and her values. She teaches us to send out the message of our return to those who are like us. I know several writers who have this glyph taped above their writing desks. I know one who carries it folded up inside of her shoe. It is a poem by Charles Simic, and it is the ultimate instructions to us all. He who cannot howl will not find his pack. If you want to resummon wild woman, refuse to be captured. With instincts sharpened for balance, jump anywhere you like. Howl at will. Take what there is, find out all about it. Let your eyes show your feelings, look into everything, see what you can see. Dance in red shoes, but make sure they're the ones you've made by hand. I can promise you that you will become one vital woman. And the end! That is the end of chapter 8. Let's talk. I feel like that chapter hit me personally so hard. The whole chapter. I feel like I've gone through the cycle of the red shoes so many times in my life, like so many times, through relationships, through just simple distractions, through school, through alcohol, or not alcohol, I'm not really an alcohol fan, but like weed, like through so many things. I have gone through the distractions from my wild life. The key though, I think that the only thing I've ever been addicted to personally was love, or the fantasy of it. I've definitely gone through it where I've been addicted to being treated wrong, or I've been addicted to abuse, things like that. I really actually want to start a series on my channel because I've been thinking a lot about my past relationships, and I just feel like growing up, I wasn't aware of so many little things that might have steered me in different directions when it comes to love. And I personally, through my experience now, have learned so much that I wish I could have just learned from somebody telling me. And I want to share my story, and I realize that like so many people, like it's hard to learn from someone just telling you, but maybe it can be a little helpful, you know, like to at least hear the advice from someone and then it be put out there that it is other tips. I don't know. I just feel like maybe it could help. And obviously, as you guys can tell, part of what I think my purpose is kind of like sharing stuff. It's why I have a YouTube channel. It's why I love social media, you know? So, I don't know. I think that would be really great. Because I think that so many young people just need to hear little keys that help them think differently. Because there's so many cliches out there. There's so many tips that just don't fully go below the surface and tell what is really deeply going on. Little things like, just because you leave someone doesn't mean you don't love them anymore. But if someone doesn't want you to take care of yourself, that does mean they don't love you. That is something it took me a long time to learn that if someone truly loves you, they would want you to take care of yourself. I don't know, that's a deeper and different video, but I would really like to talk about that more. And I know so many women who have been through this, and I know that they're just like dying to share their stories. So I would like to give them a platform, if not my little tiny platform, to speak, you know, my little handmade box. I would love to share that. So that is the end of chapter 8. Please leave me a comment below. There's so many things throughout this video that I've talked about that I would really like to continue to talk to you guys about. So leave me a comment about them below and we can continue the discussion. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for tuning in as always. Make sure that you like this video again to let me know that you guys are enjoying the chapters videos, and I will be out with chapter 9 very, very soon. I love you guys. See you next time. Bye. Woo! Wait, before you go, I'm sure I already asked you guys this, and hopefully you already have, but just in case you haven't, make sure you like and comment on this video and go ahead and share it with your friends too. If you guys enjoyed that video and would like to continue to hang out with me, go ahead and follow my Instagram, yo! I post on there way more often than I do YouTube, and I also respond to my DMs so we could be real friends in like real life, you know? Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you're looking for more stuff to watch, this was my last video and I think you'd really like this video right here. So check it out. I'll be waiting. Go ahead and click whenever you're ready. I'll be waiting. Okay, hopefully you've clicked now. Bye.